Sydney Chase says that accountability is uncomfortable, but we still have to take it sometimes. That's essentially going to be the overall thread of this video. Might be a difficult one to watch, but it's an important one to make, so that's why I'm making it. Here we go. Hi everyone, it's Vita here. I have not made a blog video in some time, and the reason for that is because I was meditating really hard on this video and the importance of this video and how to go about it, asking questions from people who this video is very relevant to. So we're just gonna get right into it. This video is going to have some content warnings about emotional, physical, sexual abuse, things to that effect. We are gonna hit some pretty hard spots. There's just a lot to talk about, so we're just gonna talk about it. In the past, probably 2 to 3 months or so, I have had conversations with people about my lack of accountability and about what it has meant to people who care about me, who I've loved and cared about in the past, and the damage that I've caused people by having this lack of accountability. A lot of people before used to hear me joke about how I was nobody's role model, which I'm realizing in retrospect, thanks to a couple friends of mine, was a bullshit cop-out. Essentially removing myself of any responsibility of any impression that I would have on other people and any impact that any decisions that I made, no matter how reckless or careless, would have on other people. And as a result, I exercised a lot of abusive behaviors in the past. Some of them very recent, as of this year, some of them carrying on from last year well into this year, and I just need to have accountability about those things. I think it's one of the only ways that I can give some peace and some justice to the people that I've hurt. Some of those people will be mentioned by name, but we have had conversations previous to this video, and I was given, I don't necessarily want to say counsel, but I was definitely given their take and what they would want to see happen in this video. I thought it was really important that if I was going to make a video about the situation and the people affected by this video were still very much around, that they had the right to voice whatever needed to be voiced in this video through me. Before this video surfaced, I was approached by many past partners who have been hurt by that lack of accountability I talked about earlier. One of the people most recently affected by my lack of accountability and responsibility was a former partner of mine named MC. MC expressed to me multiple times that they identified as asexual and that asexuality was a part of their identity that most people didn't respect, and they, as a result, have dealt with a lot of abuse and assault from other people. That was something that I didn't respect as much as I should have. There were a lot of times where I acted in a way that was contrary to what they asked of me, and so as a result, I became another person who didn't fully respect their asexuality, and the moments where they explicitly did not consent to things that I did, it fucked them up really bad, and I lost them. I was not as respectful of their boundaries in regards to their sexual identity. I mean, you can say it however you want to say it. The reality of it is that no matter how academic or whatever bullshit you try to put on it, no matter what you try to put on it, that was something that, for the longest time destroyed this person who literally traveled to different states to come see me, who was literally the reason that I could afford to do some of the work I do now. The only thing that they asked me to respect was the one thing I didn't, and that's not okay. Another situation that arose from what happened with MC and I came in the form of a former partner named Lucy. Lucy was very close with the both of us, and as a result was very strongly affected by what happened, and it was a very complicated situation because at the time Lucy and I were living together. They were trying their best to keep us together in a way that would allow us to handle that abuse and handle that situation internally, and what happened was I got so wrapped up in my guilt about my behavior, I wasn't really flexible with what needed to happen, and I imposed a lot of myself onto the situation, which was not something I should have done. A lot of fights happened. I don't know, just a lot of bad energy and a lot of bad blood started to form between the two of us because we couldn't share space together anymore. You know, there were two people affected in very different ways by my irresponsibility in that moment, but what happened was the whole damn thing exploded. I was unable to be what Lucy needed in the relationship without pushing my guilt onto them. So after this really, really aggressive verbal confrontation between Lucy and I called the whole thing off. And in the middle of that, I had a temper flare up and I lashed out at my equipment and kicked a drum set, apparently threw a music stand across the room. It scared Lucy really bad, and I don't blame them because they are also a survivor of emotional abuse, right? Something that I should have kept in mind before my temper went completely out of fucking control, but I didn't. I traumatized someone who, very much like MC, would travel states to come see me and would drop money at the instant I needed it just to be able to make sure I was okay. So they left too. That was something that was really hard to know, that when I came home the next time, I would come home to a house that was empty because of the way that I was treating people who cared about me. Shortly after that situation happened, I was also given information and also confronted by a previous partner that I dated last year, who was another one of those people, another one of those people who cared about me and tried really, really hard to take me as I was, but I was not willing to do the same. There was a lot of gaslighting in that relationship. There was a lot of invalidation about their experiences and a lot of an unwillingness to understand where they were coming from in most respects, actually. And as I was coming into activism, I realized I was being armed with more tools to actually perpetuate abuse. There's so many ways you can use activist tactics to invalidate a person's experiences and to manipulate them to do things that you want them to do. I wasn't aware of those things at the time. It doesn't make it okay to use your knowledge and to use your experiences, even your marginalization, to use your identity to abuse other people and to invalidate other people in a way that is going to probably traumatize them, if not for a good portion of their life, at least in that moment, right? But it's likely that if that person was a survivor of other types of abuses before, that you were just making it more difficult for them to recover from those abuses because you've put on more of them. There's a lot of us out there who aren't willing to accept that with that knowledge comes the ability to cause more damage if you're not careful. Just because you developed a knowledge about the way that the world works and you are able to approach it with a new set of sensibilities and behaviors in ways that would hopefully create solidarity as opposed to tearing down walls, doesn't mean you're incapable of doing it. It doesn't mean that you're incapable of damaging people because you know what it means to be damaged, right? That's why we even have this cliche expression that hurt people hurt people. As a survivor of sexual assault, I should have known better how to treat MC in those moments where they were specifically telling me that they were not a sexual person inherently, right? As a survivor of emotional abuse, I should have been a little more on top of things that I was saying and doing to this other partner in regards to people using temper to control the situation. I definitely should have had more mindfulness about the way that a temper flare-up would affect Lucy. And as a result of me not taking accountability for all those behaviors, 3 people who were probably the strongest and most important anchors in my life, gone. And that's on me. As we enter this new world of philosophies and discussions and behaviors, right? We have to know that no matter how far you grow as a human being, you still gotta be willing to get yourself in check. Otherwise, people you really love are gonna get hurt. It's like I said at the beginning of this video, accountability is uncomfortable, but we still have to take it. If it weren't for those people coming to me, pulling me aside, telling me hey, the shit you did is not okay and we gotta talk about it, then I don't know if I ever would have learned about the importance of accountability, and if I would have learned who's to say I wouldn't have taken so many more people apart in the process? And I don't even mean that, like, I'm not being self-deprecating here. I want you to know that. I am working on building myself. I'm working on understanding myself, but I have to understand the severity of those situations. If those people hadn't called me in, right, and those people had pulled me aside and told me that what I was doing was fucked up, I would have just kept doing it. So in a lot of ways, I'm an example of how no amount of knowledge in the world makes you immune to mistakes. I present myself as an example of that in this very, very public state of accountability for the people who were hurt by my decisions. I don't know if this will give those people any solace at all, but that's not for me to benefit from. As a result of those situations and the people who worked really hard and gave more than they probably even had in those moments, I'm currently in the process of getting myself a therapist, working to undo these behaviors, working really hard to try to understand where these behaviors even came from. With therapy will hopefully come more accountability. I have recently reconnected with 2 of the people I've mentioned in this video in order to make this video, and hopefully to give these people like the proper representation and validation in this video. I'm working harder internally, like within myself, to have more dialogue about what it means to show up in a space and know how I move through that space affects the space. We gotta have a discussion about what that means to accept those potential errors in our lives and how we keep each other in check. I'm working on not judging people so quickly and so harshly because of the fact that that was not what was done to me. All of these people who have been so negatively affected by my irresponsibility could have simply just thrown me under the bus. They could have just dragged me to the ends of the earth. They would have been so justified in doing it, but they didn't. These people took time with me to get me to understand the mistakes that I was making and the way that people were being affected by those mistakes. So that's something that I'm working on as well, because I was also a very reactive and a very bitter person, which specifically affected the one partner who I was very emotionally abusive to because that partner was white. I'm currently living with a group of neurodivergent trans femmes in Chicago. We're working on building a community space together, one where if somebody falls off, we all come together and try to take care of each other. With that also comes the need to take care of myself better in regards to my mental disability, going to get therapy and taking my meds on time and taking them every day like I'm supposed to, and actually eating and actually sleeping, and understanding that it doesn't all have to get done today, and understanding that, yeah, you fucked up, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an inherently bad person, and living in that moment of your mistake as this means to demean yourself, which no one wanted me to do, only further takes away my responsibility to those people that I've hurt. So those are all things that I'm working on right now. I encourage people to look into their own lives and think really hard about the ways that we've treated others, think really hard about the ways that we've treated ourselves, think really hard about the ways that we want to move forward with that information, and from there to find ways to come together that will hopefully get as many of us as free as we can be as possible. Because unless we're fully willing to do that, there are going to be people who get left behind. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I want you to know that I appreciate that you've watched it. I know it's a hard video to watch. I know it's a hard discussion to have, but I want to let you know that I appreciate that you took that path with me on this video. If there's anyone who has any questions about this, I strongly request that you contact me privately. Right now, there's just a lot of rawness to it. I'm telling you where I'm at, and hopefully we can meet in the middle somewhere. That being said, to any and everyone who watches this video, and to any and everyone who feels anything from this video, I witness you, I love you, and I lift you. This is VDE. Peace.